What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Fallout video, and today I'm bringing you a few mods in Fallout 4 that's going to make your game look a lot better on PS4, and it also works on Xbox and PC, I guess, but I just did PS4 specifically just because this game version doesn't look as good as Xbox or PC just because of its requirements. But with the help of a few mods, you can actually make this game look a lot better than the vanilla version of it, so if you guys do go on to enjoy it, make sure you like, subscribe, and let's get right into the video.
With my two fists divine, but I'm going nowhere. Oh, yeah, I'm the type of guy that likes to roam around.
Alright guys, so the first mod we have seems a little bit obvious, but it's going to be the Better Graphics and Weather mod by TechMac169, and there is different versions for this mod. I'm specifically using the one that is for Far Harbor, but you can get the vanilla base version, and you can also get a Nuka World and Far Harbor version as well. This mod is going to be improving the graphics and the weather inside of your game, which is actually kind of cool because it's like a 2-in-1 type of mod. The only thing with this is if you have any other weather mods, it's going to affect them just a little bit, just because it's going to be affecting the weather in the game as well. Some things that this mod does is it's going to make your nights a lot darker. Also, when it's nighttime, the lights around you, let's say it's a street light, is going to look a lot better. And during sunsets and sunrises, the sky looks a lot more colorful. This mod also affects the way light and things reflect off other objects, so if like light reflecting off of water is going to look a lot better, and God rays and things like that are going to be looking a lot better as well. And this is all for the DLC versions too, so the one that I have downloaded is the Far Harbor DLC. He has one coming soon for Nuka World, but for Far Harbor, your nights are going to be a lot more darker, and it's going to look a lot more atmospheric and make it look a lot cooler than it normally does, and I guess creepy too in a way. And because it makes the world look more atmospheric and stuff at night and a lot darker, it does give you more of an incentive to actually play at night. I know a lot of times whenever it starts getting dark, I always just sleep because I don't like playing at night just because it's kind of boring. But with this, it actually does make it a lot more cool and creepier. I've used this mod for a while now, and I've actually really enjoyed it. And he's constantly coming out with updates and fixes for it, and also adding new things in. I'm excited to see what he has in the future. And that kind of transitions my way into the next mod we're going to be doing, which is the Realistic Gore and Dismemberment mod by Cole Corn. This mod is going to be affecting the way that enemies in Fallout 4 are going to be affected whenever you actually shoot them with a gun or if you hit them with a sword or anything like that, because enemies now have a chance of surviving limbs being blown off, and it doesn't only just affect humans, it also super mutants and other creatures as well. Whenever you kill a rad stag, if you shoot it in one of its heads can fall off and it'll still live like that. Mirelurks in all sizes are now affected, as well as Synths, Gen 1 and Gen 2. In addition to body part health values for nearly every enemy has been tweaked. Headshots are more deadly, and well-placed limb shots can be easily cripple or disarm an enemy, leading to some strategic encounters. So whenever you do shoot at an enemy and let's say his arm gets blown off, they're going to be kind of crippled for a moment and before they re-come over and start attacking you again, which can give you ability to take out some really powerful enemies that you weren't able to in the past, like a Deathclaw or any creatures from the Glowing Sea. Another cool thing that this mod creator did do is, besides just only affecting the gore in the game, he actually went through most of the enemies in Fallout 4 and rebalanced them to make them a little bit more harder and more realistic. So not only is the gore in your game going to be a lot more realistic, but you're actually getting a rebalance of all the enemies, which is a lot more beneficial for higher level players, just because when you get into those high levels, enemies do become really easy, and they're just kind of a pushover if you don't have mods installed to kind of help you make them a little more harder. At least in my case, just because I'm level like 160, which just makes enemies just a pushover all the time, and they're really easy, and it's never really a challenge, even for the really big enemies like the Albino Deathclaw and other enemies like that. And just to be safe, I say you should put this at the bottom of your load order just in case any of the things in this mod does affect how this mod works. The next mod we have isn't the most noticeable mod, but it is a really cool one to add in, and it is the Pipboy Light Overhaul mod by Sarge Schultz 11. And if you don't really know who that is, he's a creator of a lot of mods in this game that I've reviewed in my videos in the past, and he's actually a really good at it too. And basically what this mod does is it adds shadow casting light to the Pipboy to give it a more immersive and flashlight feel. So whenever you do turn your Pipboy and you look at the ground and stuff like that, there's going to be a shadow on them, which is kind of distracting if you're in third person, as you can see right here. But I don't really play in third person all that really much, so I don't really care about it. But first person, it is really beneficial, and it makes your games look a lot cooler and just kind of more realistic too. Also, it does work with power armor headlamps as well. Despite this mod not being the biggest one or most important one, I still think it's a really cool one, just because with the mod that I just previously talked about, it does make the nights darker, and this mod is going to help you just see at night, because sometimes it can get kind of dark if you're in, you know, like dark areas such as a building or things like that. It does help you a lot. The next mod I'm going to be talking about is sort of similar and in the same category as the Pipboy light improvement mod, which is the Improving Lighting Ballistics mod by Ryan JP89, and I have reviewed this mod in the past a long time ago, but a lot of you guys probably didn't see it just because I was at like 2,000 subscribers when I reviewed it. But what this mod basically does is it improves the lighting for projectiles such as bullets, lasers, gauze, plasma, missiles, and flares, etc. Now when you shoot a regular gun with normal bullets, they have sort of a tracer round effect, which I think is really good at night, especially with this graphics mod that makes your nights a lot darker. It gives it a really cool effect. It is also going to be affecting the lighting from explosions and a few other changes by improving them and make them look a lot more vibrant, even though he can't directly affect the tracers and the models just because that affects scripts, which is not allowed in Fallout 4. The mod creator also says that in the future he does plan on adding all the DLC weapons to this list, but it's just going to take some time just because they do add in a lot of weapons, and this mod does pretty much affect every lighting ability for weapons in the game. And mods like these do tend to have a lot of bugs, but this one specifically doesn't really have all that many that I've noticed at all, and he's been pretty good about keeping up with the mods and fixes that this game does need if there's any bugs or anything like that, and there's constantly updates coming out for this mod. But if your weapons do start to glitch or any lighting effects happen that isn't supposed to happen, you can report it to him and he will make sure to fix it. Now, that goes without saying that this mod will sort of affect any mod that changes projectiles or explosions that another mod may have, and it's going to kind of interfere. So I didn't put any of those mods in this video besides this one, so you shouldn't have to worry about anything affecting it. The next mod we have is the Water Redux mod by Liam and Ease, and I have also reviewed this mod in the past, but I felt like it was definitely necessary for this type of video. And what this does is just makes water more realistic and enhances the visuals that comes along with that. The Water Redux is an immersive graphics modification to retweak the water of the wasteland as appropriate for lore and style. It does this by making the water more realistic in many ways, as it would naturally appear, and certainly it would appear 200 years after the bombs fell. Some water is cleaner with more clarity and visibility, other pools have remained stagnant, and some have become even more dirty. It's currently in the middle beta stages, but he's planning on working on it and what makes this mod really good is because he stated that the goal is not to simply make all water perfectly clear or extremely dirty, and then rather the various water types should display a natural and more realistic variety of clarity and cleanliness depending upon their location. As such, different bodies of water have different visually observable depths from the surface while striving to maintain realism. And that's why I chose it to be in here, just because it makes the water look so much better, because the normal Fallout 4 vanilla water does look, it looks good, but it doesn't look as good as it could be, and I think they didn't make it as good as they could have made it, honestly. And every video that you see of mine that has to do with mods, I pretty much use this mod in particular all the time, just because I think it improves the overall quality of the video. And lastly, for this mod, it isn't going to be conflicting with any other graphic enhancing mods, or just any mods like that in general. Now, the next one I'm going to be talking about isn't exactly required, but I do think it can help a little bit, and that is the Darker Nights in Rainy Weather mod by Scowl by Losses. And what this mod does is it basically affects the way night and weather at work, and it makes nights a lot more darker, and rainy weather occurs about twice as often than usual. And the reason I say this mod isn't necessarily required to make your game a lot more realistic is if you don't like your nights being super dark, I understand that. But if you do like your nights being really dark and rainy, which I think look a lot more immersive kind of, and looks really cool with some of the mods I talked about in this video, you can definitely use it and you can definitely tell a difference. As for the rainy weather, I know a lot of people don't like it when it's rainy, and that's why I put it towards the end of this video, just because I know that a lot of people don't like rainy weather, but some do. This mod does not require any DLC, but if you do install it and have the DLC, it does work for Far Harbor and Nuka World. I haven't exactly played with this mod on Far Harbor, but I do think it's just going to make it super dark, even though Far Harbor is already dark and rainy. This will just even add to that even more. But since we already have the first mod I talked about, which is the graphic enhancing mod, which does critique the weather and darkness in this game, I really don't think this mod is as necessary as the rest of them. Now, the final mod I do want to talk about is the Interior Visual Overhaul mod by Dark Souls 11 again, and this is basically going to be overhauling all the interior visuals for the game. The description of this mod says that every interior cell in the game should be redone, and this makes the interior feel a lot more immersive in his opinion. A lot of areas are darker, like they rightfully should be, and you can visit a lot of your favorite places to check them out as well. And sort of like the last mod, this one isn't exactly 100% required, but I do think it makes the interiors look a lot better, and when you combine this with the Pipboy Overhaul mod and the Lighting Ballistics Overhaul mod, it does look really, really cool. And that is all the mods I have for this video, but I do want to talk about some things about this. Normally, when you have all these mods enabled, sometimes you would normally have frame rate problems, but I tried to use all the mods that I could without making the game just run like complete crap on PS4. I'm using the normal PS4 and not the PS4 Pro, and as you can see right here, we're maintaining some pretty decent FPS throughout the entire gameplay, and I've found that pretty much throughout the entire game, besides Boston, which has frame rate issues anyway, despite having any mods at all. And as far as I've played, it's ran really, really well, in my opinion. If your game isn't running as good as it should be, you can always install some of the like FPS enhancing mods, such as getting rid of God rays and things like that. It won't make your game look as good, but you can't really notice it all that well just because God rays are only if you look at the sun and stuff like that. But it shouldn't affect your frames per second that much. You may have a slight decrease than usual. But that is pretty much all I have for you today, guys. Sorry that I had to delete the all working glitches video. I messed up on the editing and didn't notice, and I saw some of the comments were saying about it, so I didn't want to just leave it up if the video was messed up and things like that, just because it's a pretty big video and it took a lot of work to edit. So if you guys did enjoy this video, tell me what you thought about it in the comments. If you liked it, tell me. But if you did enjoy it, make sure you like, subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.